went back on some old ideals. We came back to the game. We tried using the suppressors and stuff, and we do have builds for that. So if we do run Ghost, we do. Oh, this is. So we'll go back over here, right? So if you look, we do have the M4 with the suppressor and stuff to ghost it out. This is if we're doing a ghost type of thing, if we need to be silent stuff. But we're basically building our groups, our weapons based on roles. So if there's a squad of 4, you have a marksman, an LMG, um, 2 riflemen, either or, close range, medium range. Uh, Someone needs high alert. That's the scout, the person that goes and secures areas for you. They're going to have more information on where people are, and they can defend themselves a little bit better. Then your LMG is going to need uh, point man or the kiosk would be the tops probably. Point man probably would be best. The kiosk thing could be another one. Um, and then you're going to need at least 2 people running restock. So you'll have plenty of grenades and plenty of smokes, things like that. And the reason we're using smokes instead of stuns is because they give more versatility overall. Um, a stun, you can single-handedly win a fight with a stun grenade. You can always have those on your other teammates if you really need them, but they don't deal damage, and they don't help you in open fields. So places that you need a lot of cover, you're going to want 4+ smoke grenades to help you get across those gaps because cover is very, very vital. Plus, you can also throw smokes into buildings to nullify their vision and possibly make them panic and leave the building as well. Anything that you can do with a frag grenade, I mean, the stun would keep them there where they get hit for a frag. But if you hit them with a frag, they're pretty much damaged anyway, so you shouldn't really lose those fights. And then as for the overall, you're going to want at least 1 grenader and probably 1 RPG. RPG can be on the LMG or it can be on the grenader class, either one. And then we're going to be going down to look at this. So this is the test thing that we're doing. We've tried the slugs. So you can use slugs or you can use dragon breath. And why we're going with this shotgun is because it has a longer range than the R9, and it also has faster ADS times that we can get on here as well. So the slug will be longer ranges if you want that. It can actually shoot pretty far, way past a whole building in length. The fire rounds are just easier to land, close or mid-range, so they're probably about a building length that you can do. So we're going to be doing dragon breath still, but we do get a fast ADS time here. And then we're not running the laser because we're doing ADS, and we don't really need that anymore. We're running wounding on this. Now, the reason why we're doing wounding and stuff on our guns is you can see these 2 parts here. If you're kind of losing out on this, is that we're using tactics over just skill, like just straight up gun battle skills and stuff. Not keeping people on the radar. Um, it helps if you're not on the radar, sure, but this is going to help you win more fights overall, at least in my opinion, if you practice with your team enough. So we still have damage, recoil control, velocity, all that stuff. We're using the grenader barrel because we get a little bit more recoil control here, and we're not using any recoil control here. This is just because I lowered my sensitivity. I can handle the recoil pretty well. The gun might not be 100% accurate, but it's pretty solid. And what this does is basically we have the new canted sights, the hybrids that are able to get us a bunch of recoil reduction, which is going to help replace the loss of our underbarrel attachment. It opens up the underbarrel for a high explosive round, and what this does basically is allow for serious suppressive fire and also finishing off enemies without having to expose yourself to them, right? So explosives, a single explosive in this game can completely weaken and like ruin a people's team fight. Just break all their armor with 1 explosive round, and you have a massive advantage over them. So 60 rounds, we're still spraying and praying. We've tried 30 rounds with M13s and stuff, and it does work, but it isn't the best. Um, If you want to do a 30 rounds, you can do it, but you have to run in groups of two and you have to synchronize your fire. If you have 60 rounds with two people, it's 120 rounds. You have plenty of ammo to completely obliterate a full team inside of an open field. If they clump up together, you can spray them down. We've did that before. So what this is doing, we're using the wounding effect, and not many people are using the wounding effect on here. And if you've seen how I've been using the AK in the past when I first started using the wounding effect, it was really good because it kept people in cover longer, and then the AK that I was using was able to finish them off even if they finished replating, because I think it was like 5 rounds or something to down them. So you'd hit like two or three, their armor would be broken, their HP would be pretty much gone. They'd try to plate up, and then if you hit like two more shots or whatever, they'd just be dead. So that's when we started using wounding, but now it's transitioned over to our M4s and stuff because we're not using the muzzle attachments anymore. So what this does is you don't have to be as conservative with your ammo because you have an extra weapon on your gun, which is the underbarrel explosive attachment. It takes a little bit time to get used to shooting it, but I have gotten pretty good and I'm able to hit vehicles and stuff fairly well. What this lets you do though is basically overwhelm enemies with extreme firepower. They're not going to be able to fight you as well because you're going to be able to pressure them very, very hard. So what you do is when you're shooting, if they're behind cover or whatever, you can shoot the 60 rounds. You can keep firing so your allies can rotate around. And then when you hit the clip or when you hit the mag's end, instead of just reloading, just push B or whatever your button is, swap to the underbarrel and pop a round off. Because a lot of people right there, when they see that you stopped reloading or they stop firing to reload, they push out. So as soon as you do that, you have wounding effect on your gun. So if you broke their armor or whatever before, if you hit them, they're not going to be recharging that HP as much. And then you're going to pop them with that underbarrel high explosive before going into cover. So it's going to hurt them, possibly kill them. You can use this to finish off people in rooms as well. Explosives are just really nice to have in general. And the wounding effect is going to help your teammates kill people faster. It's just an HP battle. If you all are all spraying the same targets, then they're going to be getting hit, armor's broken, they're going to be in cover, and the longer their HP's down, the worse it is for them, and the more likely that they're going to stay behind cover, which is giving you time to press if you want to press. Um, so you can run all of these together if you want, just because if you all wanted to run an AR and a shotgun or whatever, you can. But the point is that if you're having a marksman battle, if there's 3 marksmen on the enemy team and 1 on yours, if your marksman's good enough, they should be able to handle themselves against those marksmen. It might be stressful, but it's going to allow your team to secure the perimeter around your marksman to make sure that you don't get snuck up on, and your marksman can handle that fight. If your marksman gets down, hopefully he has cover. If not, you have smoke grenades, and you go and revive them. You have one of your teammates go and revive, which may seem odd to you, but it's just putting one of your people against a multitude of theirs, and it's going to be a skill fight between the snipers. A sniper battle, it's not likely you're going to just finish people off if they're really good and they're behind cover. If you do have a bunch of sniper rifles, then sure. But what this also means is that you're not going to be wasting a ton of ammunition fighting those people. Now, if you do need more support for long range, that's why you have the LMG. LMGs are good at long range fights, so and they're also good at really putting down the hammer on firepower. So, um, our LMG class, like I have one that's right here, Point Man, that doesn't have one, but our main LMG for the group has a thermal hybrid, or just a thermal, and as well as the Joker, cold blooded. So we're going to be able to toss the smoke hunkered down with the LMG and then spray down targets to keep them suppressed. That means that your other 2 riflemen will be guarding your flanks. Usually they will have overload, which is where we are getting into this territory here. Now, with M4s, doesn't matter really what AR that you can use whatever you want. Some of the other ones are more accurate. You can use those perfectly fine. We're using the M4 just because it has a high rate of fire and good damage. It's also kind of iconic, so go for M4s. Now, what this means is that if we use an M4 and we're in a fight, if we're pushing or whatever, we're going to be able to basically pelt them with bullets, have the wounding effect on them because of this. Then we're going to have frag grenades, Simtexes, whatever you want. You're going to be able to throw them, possibly finish them off there because they don't have the HP regen. Possibly finish them off with the underbarrel explosive launcher. But it means that you're going to be able to put a bunch of pressure on those people just with two players, just with two people. You're going to have a lot of pressure against the enemy team, where one explosive could turn the tide of a fight. And then secondary, we're having the shotgun right now. Now, we may have these in two different classes, or you can do an overload class. And the reason that I'm using the 680 shotgun, particularly in this case, I'm going to show you this. We still have the wounding effect. The reason that we've come to this point is that the R9, it's very good. You can single-handedly destroy whole squads with that. It has minimum range. That's the main issue with it. Now, the Joker is also a possible thing to use here. I haven't been using the Joker. It has lower mobility and stuff like that as far as and I was using the VLK, which is still an option, but the VLK's range is still less than the 680, even though it does fire faster and it does have higher mobility. Now, and also a big thing with this is that the attachments for the 680, the thing that really makes them stand out is you can see that it doesn't have ADS movement speed penalties on these. So we get a buff with the barrel and the magazine. So that's 2 slots for 1. We get a buff here, ADS speed, recoil control. We're able to get longer ranges here, and then the no stock is just a buff. The aiming stability and recoil control don't really matter that much because it's a pump action shotgun. So you're not going to be rapid firing it. You don't really need the recoil control or the aiming stability, even though the aiming stability is nice. And then having this just means that we're going to be able to move faster and get our aim outside speeds a lot faster. And on top of that now is that we're using the wounding. We were using this, and we don't really care about the laser. The hipfire accuracy, you can't get any hipfire accuracy on the underbarrel attachments. There's nothing in here that gives you hipfire accuracy. So stacking these up, it's not going to be as good as the other guns. And you'd still do plenty of damage hip firing this without actually having the laser on it. We were using an optic. I would say if you're going to use slug rounds, so if you decide to use the slug rounds here, then I would drop uh, the wounding effect probably and grab yourself a VLK optic. That's probably the best thing I've been able to say with this. But however, I will say that the slug rounds, although they hit very hard, um, it can be difficult to hip fire those close range if someone gets in your face. Now, we also have to consider the fact that basically what this is doing is allowing you to have a secondary weapon that's really strong close quarters and is really strong as a defensive weapon as well. So let's say you have an R9. What's the R9 good at? It's going in, doof doof. Like you're in their face, direct hit, right? But you're exposing yourself flying in there like that. Now, what is good about a VLK? We have a lot more range. It can probably shoot across a house with this. If you have a slug, it can shoot across like a house and a half, maybe 2 houses. If you have the slug rounds, that's a good thing about that, but it requires accuracy on that part. Now, with the fire rounds, we're able to get really good damage close range, and we're able to get the wounding effect here, which is going to be a little bit heightened because of the burning effect. So the burn is going to keep them lower a little bit longer, and then the perk itself. So you don't have to press them as hard. But if you have 2 people rocking this shotgun, you'll easily be able to push together and fight anyone inside of a building. And you'll have way more range than a doof doof shotgun. The R9s, you're just gonna have more range. If they try to push you, you should be able to finish them off with this. You do have 8 rounds or whatever, so your ammo capacity is a little bit limited, but you do have a mag now, which means that you're going to be able to reload a lot faster. If you don't like the wounding effect, then you can easily just drop this and grab sleight of hand or something to help you reload faster if you don't like the magazine capacities. But the winning effect with this when you push buildings is basically going to make it to where if you hit somebody and they do try to reposition or wrap around the building, they're not going to get their HP back as well. Now, you may be thinking, though, why take an inferior weapon if the doof doof can down anybody instantly, pretty much? The main thing is we're using explosives, so you're wanting to use your frag grenades and stuff before you enter rooms. You're wanting to spray them down with M4s or whatever you can. Um, Missile launchers, underbarrel launchers, anything that you can to weaken these guys, and it's going to make this a one-shot weapon. And then if they do happen to survive or you trade inside of a building, because you can shoot farther than the R9, you don't have to try and rush them to get to them. All you have to do is like go around the corner, and you can even like half peek a corner and hip fire it, and the bullets will still hit and deal a lot of damage. So it's pretty versatile. And with this method of play is pretty much just making things more tactical instead of it just being a direct firefight. If you're not really good at aiming, if you're not really good at um, like fancy maneuvers and things in buildings, having tools that you can use can help balance the odds, and this can help you dramatically balance the odds because even a really good player, if you go against them with this kind of, as long as they just don't insta down you, you're going to have so much firepower on one person, you're going to be able to turn the tide. Even with one grenade in here, it's so much power. You don't realize how useful it is until you start using it. There'd be plenty of times it would be pelting enemies, and they'll go and huddle inside of a building, and you'll run out of your magazine, and they'll try to do a desperate push in front of you, and you just underbarrel launch, boom, they're finished. And if you have the Joker missile launchers, you're able to use those to claim buildings. I've shown how to do that before. So basically almost any building inside of Warzone, at least the major ones, there are doorway entrances or satellite dishes or um, antennas, things like that on top of the buildings. And you can lock onto those with the Joker missile launcher. And for the most part, those missiles will land and hit the roof, and one missile is going to be able to down people. And a lot of people peek around those because they use the satellite dishes and stuff for cover or to look up on top of things. You can even target the railings on the side of the walls if you need to. But using that tactically, you're going to be able to take a lot of buildings a lot easier without using cluster strikes because they can't know that a Joker's is coming unless they see it coming, and it's kind of a little slow. And you can get 3 or 4 of them off before the first one hits. So by the time they kind of notice, they might see that a missile hit the side. They might not realize what's going on because it's not very common, and they come around to the edge and they get knocked. A lot of times then they'll try to push into cover, so they'll try to go next to those doorways or anything like that. Um, but basically all you have to do is have 1 or 2 teammates set into the tree line or whatever, target the building. Then you have your rifleman group with the close range shotguns and all of this come in, and they're going to go up the stairwell, work their way up. And then once they're ready, once they're getting close, you launch all the missiles that you can to the rooftop, and it'll start hitting, damaging, downing people. It's going to cause some panic, and then they're going to get picked off from that because there's no warning that it's coming. Because your teammates can then push forward and hit them. As long as they don't have a heartbeat sensor and they see your guys coming and able to counter out that, then it should be good. But your gunmen should have enough firepower to hold off whoever comes their way. So with a shotgun that can shoot really far and do a lot of damage, with an underbarrel launcher that can insta down people, with a 60 round AR, 2 frag grenades, and smoke grenades, they should have plenty of tools to win whatever fight comes their way. And that's what's really cool about it. I'm going to try and convince some of these guys that I play with to help me out with this, make some videos if I can. They're not really the best players in the world, but they're probably going to be a good example of what we can do. And we have been doing some of this before already, and you've seen the last couple streams that we've been able to actually take rooftops and stuff with the Joker missile launchers. We've been able to really uh, show what you can do in the game without having to directly fight everybody. Which has been really nice. We've even shown like two guys taking on full squads in open fields and things. So I'll try and record some of those, highlight them. If I can find the videos, maybe try to clip them. I know I had a video I was trying to make with the Joker missile launcher. I had some highlights, but I couldn't get them to combine together. It's just a bunch of highlight clips, and you can't transfer them all over to YouTube. So we'll see on that.